Welcome to the Creative Soul Healing Podcast. Here we talk about the connection between creativity and healing, and how we are creative and how creativity helps us heal mentally, physically, and emotionally. Join us now. Hi everyone, Larissa Russell of Creative You Healing, and today I have with me Sue Young. Sue is a mixed media artist from Cornwall, UK. She trained in both fashion textiles and fine art and has a wealth of experience as an artist. Her creative journey has led her through working as a glass engraver, a seamstress, and even creating bespoke headdresses for a bridal house. Sue works in mixed media, painting, and art journaling, and loves to create and collect art dolls. She is deeply passionate about sharing the benefits of creativity for all and loves sharing and helping others discover new techniques. She is a full-time artist and online art tutor, working out of her little gallery gift shop, which you only have a limited time to see in her hometown. And welcome, Sue.
Hello, hi. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have you. You've been like a staple in our summits that we host, and I love having you, and people always are like excited about your projects. You always do something a little different. I love that.
Oh, that's so good to hear.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. So can you, for those who don't know you, share some of your story and the path that's brought you to where you are now?
So I was thinking about this before, obviously before the interview, thinking about how I would kind of describe my story. I think, and I haven't really shared it in this way before, but this is how I was kind of figuring it today, is that the creativity in me it's really strong, and it's been there the whole time, and I've had to fight to kind of retain that and keep that, but it never went away. And in a lot of ways it actually saved me. I was quite good academically. I was raised to do science. I was told we're not a creative family. We don't do it. That's for people who aren't good at maths and all that kind of thing. And it just, so all the time I always felt like this square peg in a round hole kind of thing. And so the journey has been powerful and difficult sometimes, and I raised my two daughters on my own, so there's also the added balance of having to create a life for them and keep a roof over. So but it never went away, and even when they were small and I was working two jobs and keeping everything going, I was still painting till 2 a.m. It just never stopped, and that desire to make it a mainstay, a big part of my life, and eventually to work in the artistic field in some way or another never went away and never left. And I'm so glad that it didn't, and I finally got there. But it's been a long journey. And I was only sort of reflecting on that now, and I'm in my 50s now, and I'm thinking, it's only now that I sort of realised how strong it was, how easily that little light of creativity can be crushed and went out, and how strong it must be in me for it to have survived everything that it has. From my parents, I went into a marriage where my husband was completely, well, what do you want to do that for? And really actually quite a controlling situation, where it was like, because I'm sure like many people, creatives and that, art books, and before there was so much available online as well. I love all my art books and all that inspiration and having them around me, and I was very much interested in the fashion side as well, so it wasn't just about that. There were books on textiles and drawing and painting, and I couldn't resist it, and they're so precious to me, and he wouldn't have them on a shelf on view. He's like, well, we don't want to clutter up the shelves with a load of old books. I mean, the whole thing was just like, it's amazing actually that I still pick up a paintbrush, but that for me is really, it really makes me feel proud and really recognize the strengths of that no matter what came along, that was my saving light. It never went away, and I had to fight to get that time and to be allowed to create. I never had to not allow myself. It was just everyone else kind of seemed to want to get in the way of it. And so just that whole journey is reflecting back now, wow, you know, it was, and where could I have been now if perhaps someone had said, wow, you should do more of this, you know, that's great, and encouraged it. So I hope that I, you know, with my daughters, I certainly always did, you know, if they wanted to try anything, it was never too much mess, never too much trouble. Whatever little hobby or creative idea they had, I would go, yeah, let's go and get the stuff. If that's what you want to do, you can make it. Let's go and get what we need. And took a completely different approach. And hopefully that's made them a lot more free in the way that they approach all those things.
I love that, because it's so true about creativity, right? We live in such I call it a masculine energy world, where everything is about, it must, you know, you must create for a purpose. You have to be able to sell it. You have to be, so if you're not there, it's just a waste of time. You need to make profit. You need to, you know, put your energy towards the almighty dollar, really is what it comes down to.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, being made to feel that there was no point to it unless it had a purpose. It's like, well, why are you doing that? It's like, because I need to, because the desire to learn, the desire to get better and to nourish that and explore this whole world of amazing things that you know, I'm never going to live long enough to do all the projects that I want to do. And I couldn't, you know, I don't understand how that can't be something that excites somebody, but for whatever reason you just made to feel like you're wasting time, because obviously when you start something you're rubbish at it. And that's okay, because otherwise why would you keep trying? I never want to reach the day when I say this is the best thing I'm ever going to make, because why would I create anything after that?
Just what you're saying about that, start, like when you start out and everything's sort of crap, and then we often give up because we're judged, or we feel judged because, you know, art in school, we got a mark for it, or we were told that wasn't good enough, or, you know, somebody said, oh, that doesn't look any good, or, you know, your partner or whoever is making comments about it not being, doesn't have a purpose. Your well-being is the purpose. That's what creativity is about.
And the exploration, the whole process, it's not even about the end result. It's you know, I mean, I can remember the first time that I ever got my hands on some charcoal, like that whole, it was just a whole mess. But for me it was awesome, because I'd learned how to use charcoal. I'd learned what it did on the paper. I'd learned how it felt, and it wasn't about that end result. It was rubbish, you know. It was incredibly messy and hard to control, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I experienced it, and it just made me want to experience it more. And I think every time I get a new art supply, that's how I feel. It's so it's just never going to be enough time.
And I say that all the time about, it's the process, not the finished product. You know, if you're selling, great, the finished product, right? But you have to learn before you can get to that point. And it doesn't have to be, even if you're amazing, you don't have to sell your work. Even if you're amazing, it is completely up to you what you do with your art. And it's about the creation.
Absolutely. You know, and there are artists who create amazing work and just give it away because it's the sheer joy of being able to do that. And like you say, it's not, if you create purely for the purpose of selling it, then I think there's a danger of becoming stale and burning out, and always creating things with the idea that if I do this, particularly in Cornwall, it's very coastal. I mean, if I see one more seascape, but there is a market for it, obviously, here. And some of them are beautiful, they're amazing, but it's not something that I really feel inspired to do, because I feel like I'd only be doing it for a particular market, and it isn't really what I want to be doing. So, but I get it as well. You know, there is that need to put food on the table as well. So, you know, at least you're doing something that you love, even if you don't particularly want to paint another boat or whatever. I can see how that can happen. But it can take over, and then you lose the freshness, you lose the you know, well, what if I tried this, or maybe I'm going to try painting a whole series of something else, something new, if you're constantly creating to sell.
Yeah, it's true. The whole, I mean, you have to make that decision for your own self, right? Whether or not you're going to, but starting out, like just
Yeah,
create, and then worry about what you're going to do with it later.
yeah,
You can rip it up, you can give it away, you can use it in other pieces. I use some for collage and things. I paint over some.
yeah.
Like, don't worry about what you're going to do with it. Just create.
Yeah.
Just create.
Oh, it's sometimes it's really satisfying to paint over something that's just been around a while as well.
Mhm.
Because that when you refresh it or you paint over it completely, it has like a story in there. And it might only be you that knows that story, but there's something really quite uplifting about it. You're letting a piece go, but you're not throwing it away. I find that something really quite satisfying when something's just been there too long. There was a couple of pieces in the house, say when I moved, that had just been, they were okay, but I would never have perhaps put them on show anywhere. So they were just in the house, but I didn't love them. So I was like, why are they here? Why am I not using those canvases to
Mhm.
make something that I love? And now, they've been repainted and refreshed, and I've done them just for me. They still have been, they're not leaving the house, but now I love them. Now I like having them on the wall. So it's all still a process, whether it's 5 hours or 5 years down the line that you'll carry on working on a piece. So it's part of the journey.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So you touched on this a little bit earlier, but the healing part of creativity, what is
Yeah.
that for you? What does that mean to you?
For me, I think without even realizing it, and as I said, I was kind of just thinking about, speaking with you today, before we came on here, and I hadn't even articulated it really to myself quite how important it is to me, and it has been throughout my life, to be able to create, and how much that has actually saved me.
Mhm.
And I was reflecting back to, and I said, I wasn't at the time, I wasn't even conscious of it. When I was pregnant, I fell pregnant with my eldest daughter. I'd been with my partner for 2 years. I fell pregnant, it was unplanned, and he just disappeared like that, like he didn't take my calls, nothing. It was a small town. I mean, everybody knew what he'd done, but he just did it anyway. And that was terrifying for me.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't even know now how I got through it. I just got on with it, and it was okay. I had very good friends around me. But one of the things I did during that time was I took a painting class, like a proper. I would always paint. I read every book I could get. I would be at the library every week, getting all the art books and getting all that. So I was constantly teaching myself, because I felt like I'd been cheated out of being allowed to do it at school. I know I was. And that was, then I suddenly had this opportunity to do, it was just a couple of hours on a Friday morning, a proper art class. It was painting in oils, which I've never really gone back to very much. But um, it was just my time, and it was just a focus that I could put just on myself. And I kept going right up to, I can remember sitting in class and painting a still life and resting the drawing board on my belly and it moving, because the baby was wriggling and I've never been so happy. And I knew then that I just had to keep going with that and that, but I didn't. It's not till now when I look back on that and I realize actually that was it. That was a really, really trying, terrifying, lonely time. My heart was broken. I didn't know where I was going to live, none of those things. And yet I was going to this class once a week and I was blissfully happy in that time. So I gravitated to that without thinking I should go make some art because I'll feel better. I just did it.
Mhm.
And thank goodness for that. There was probably a huge amount going on in that time, emotionally, which I wasn't even aware of. It was an escape.
Mhm.
uh, and I was feeding myself, my inner self, and healing without even realizing that was what I was doing for myself. I just went along because my friend said, oh, there's this art class, do you fancy going? So I did. So important, so
It
important.
it really is, and I think so many people don't recognize how important it is because they're critiqued or they're told it's not important, or they know they feel better, but there's other things to do, other people to look after. And I'm talking
Yeah.
about you women. I'm
Yeah.
talking about women, and I'm
Yeah.
talking to you, all women, because we often put other people first. And
Yeah.
so, if we're told that's a waste of time and all of those things that our society, our culture deems it, unless you're amazing at it, right? And amazing is subjective when it comes to art.
Completely.
Unless you've made it, you are, hanging your art in a gallery or
Yeah.
actor in a movie or a musician on a stage. We don't deem it important, but how do you get there? How do you get there?
Exactly. And
If we
who
don't
is
allow
to
you.
define that, well, that's just a little hobby, or whether it's actually a passion?
Mm-hmm.
Because and there, I don't want to be negative, there are loads of amazing men out there, and I'm not, but that whole kind of that sort of patriarchal view and the way that things are structured, when a man, for example, and I am generalizing, don't want to offend anybody, but if a man is passionate about going fishing or playing golf, that's given priority. It's like, no, we can't go to dinner on Friday because I have a golf meeting. We can't, I won't be around on Sunday because, I'm going fishing with so-and-so. And it's given a priority within lives, shared lives. Whereas if you said, oh, I don't want to go to dinner because I want to finish knitting this jumper, which is equally as important to you for your well-being and your creativity, somehow that's like, what? You couldn't possibly ask for that time to dedicate it. And when you try, in my experience, when I try to sort of take that time, it can actually be actively sabotaged by the people around you, the people who should be encouraging you to take that time and to give yourself that chance to express yourself and to create. It's not just dismissed, it's actually sabotage to the point where they will take the opportunity to do that, the freedom to do that away from you. And that's it's very sad, but it is sort of touched on this a little bit. That it is a very sort of patriarchal view on things, that you have to succeed and you have to have made it for it to be important, and it's just not true. Also, the crafts that are considered women's crafts, like the sewing and the knitting and the cooking and all of those, without those things, what would we have? They're so important. And it has huge value, and yet somehow it's become undervalued. And dismissed and derided as well. What do you mean you like knitting? Isn't that what grannies do? And it's like, that's not how it works, because all of these passions, if that's your passion, if that's your thing, if that's what you do to create and soothe yourself, that it's important. It shouldn't be derided, and it doesn't have limitations. It's not an ageist thing or a feminine or masculine thing. It's just creating.
Which we all need. We all need. And I love what you said about, because I've been delving into the masculine and feminine energy and the patriarchy lately with our new program, Awakening, and the energy around that. And I'm not talking about men and women, right? We all need the balance. I'm just talking about
all have the energy. Both those sides.
But creativity is that feminine energy. And we all need that. We all need that for the balance. And we put our society, our culture will put down men who knit or sew, things like that. Women get put down enough because it's a waste of time. But then if a man does it, that's even worse, right? But yet you're right, fishing and going golfing, and
that's not derided or considered a waste of time, even though, a man can spend, I remember my own dad would go fishing and, we wouldn't see him for the whole weekend, and he'd come in, did you catch anything? No. But it was never considered a waste of time. It was completely valid for him to do that and just leave the rest of us to get on with it. Very double standards there, very double standards.
It is. Oh, we could do a whole thing on that, but well, I think we've definitely given people some food for thought. Is there anything you'd like to add that you maybe haven't had a chance to talk about today,
I just to create, that would be like, if I was going to say anything to listeners today, so don't be afraid of it. Don't feel like you have to be good. Don't show anybody if you don't feel like you've got people around you who are going to support and encourage you. You don't have to share it. Art is there. You do your art for you, or your creativity for you. It doesn't have to be art. Maybe it's writing. Maybe you just need to sit down and write every day, but give that to yourself. You can't possibly harm yourself by doing that. It can only do you good, regardless of the results or what other people think about it. It can only ever be good for you. So just do it. Jump in.
Just do it. I love that. I love that. And you've got a gift for our listeners. Is that right? A free class, Moonlight Whimsy. Yeah. Do you want to tell us about that?
I try to kind of put up like a little free class for people who've never perhaps tried online classes or a little bit wary of mixed media. So I try to do something each year, and this was my latest offering, was Moonlight Whimsy. It's really accessible to anyone, whether you've an experience or not. Completely free. Just jump on, enroll. You can do it in your own time. You've got lifetime access. It's no different to any of the paid classes. This is just a gift out there for you to try and get creative.
Try it and get creative. I love that. I love that. Well, I want to thank you so much, Sue.
Oh, absolute pleasure. Always love to speak to you.
To our listeners, we will see you again next time. And in the meantime, I wish for you amazingly creative days. Thank you for listening. If you found our podcast of interest, we'd love for you to leave a review wherever you listen in.